Junior doctors have entered a second day of strike action with no sign of resolution in their bitter pay dispute. Number 10 has warned there will be no talks unless they abandon their starting position of a 35% rise and call off the walkouts. Alia Butt joins me now, an NHS psychotherapist and member too of NHS Staff Voices. Alia, good morning.
Good morning.
As this dispute then now rolls into day 2, what are you seeing and hearing from within the health service and from NHS Staff Voices about how it's coping and how striking doctors are feeling over taking such long and intense action this time round?
I think junior doctors are not in a position where they're quite, people are not excited about going on strike. It's something that people have been doing very begrudgingly. It's something that, it's unfortunate that it's come to this, I think, and I think that's quite a common feeling within junior doctors. I think that's the same thing that we felt previously with nurses, and I think health workers in particular find it quite difficult to withhold care. But I think when we've seen so much kind of degradation of the NHS and systematic underfunding, years of pay restraints and a catastrophic shortage of NHS staff, we've now got more than 132,000 vacancies, and it's causing a real stress on the people who are still working in the NHS. So I think it's doctors at the end of their tethers, really, and feeling as though they've been pushed to this point, and it's really unfortunate, and it will have an impact. But I think the point really that we're trying to demonstrate is that if things don't change for workers within the NHS, then things are only going to get worse for our patients, and that's who, that's the priority for health workers always. It's the patient care.
Yeah, and of course the impact on patients of this widespread action not lost on anyone this time round. Yesterday we heard one hospital in Somerset, Alia, had called those striking junior doctors back into work because it just couldn't manage its workload at one point. Do you think that scenario likely to be repeated through this week?
I mean, I can't really say if that will happen again. But what I can say is that it really demonstrates the importance of these workers. It really demonstrates the responsibility that they feel as well, that they were able to go back into work. I think it's unfortunate that they weren't able to continue to strike, because it's really, really important for workers to be able to say, look, we don't have the conditions to work properly. And that's what this is about. This is less about pay and more about being able to do our jobs in the NHS. This is definitely about pay, because we do need to be able to put food on the table and be healthy and be comfortable. And it's a pay cut that's been in real terms of a quarter since 2008. So, due to inflation, people have not seen their pay representative and not come up in the way that it needs to if people are going to be able to live their lives in a comfortable way, as we need people working in the NHS to do, because they're doing jobs that are really, really important. And people need to be able to do those jobs comfortably. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it would be really, really helpful if the government sort of thought of this as something that they can take seriously. I think, there is money. We've seen in the budget. We've seen in the budget as well that there's been, Jeremy Hunt, in the budget, we saw the top 1% of pension bonuses being cut. But that's not what we're not seeing public services being properly funded and people being paid properly in the NHS. And that money could have gone to workers who are striking and need to be paid better. We are seeing that some junior doctors are getting £14 per hour, and that's not meeting the needs of these people who are working around the clock.
Sure. Let me ask you a little more then about your own position. Have you been able to manage then on your own wages, say in the past year in this cost of living ongoing crisis? And when you have conversations with other peers, are you and others perhaps tempted to take higher paid jobs in, sunnier climes like Australia, New Zealand? Because we've certainly heard a lot on that from some staff in recent weeks.
I think it's very tempting for staff to leave work where they feel completely undervalued and they feel completely incapable of doing their jobs. Me personally, I haven't felt tempted. I felt more upset and frustrated than tempted to leave. I felt more frustrated that people around me are struggling so much. I felt frustrated that the nurses that I work with, are crying in the staff room. I felt very, very upset and frustrated about my colleagues, really. I have struggled to keep my bills paid. I have really, really struggled. But I think a lot of people have struggled, and it's not really about the individual, and I think that's important as well, that a lot of workers who are going on strike are doing so because their colleagues are in positions of far greater kind of inflexibility. So a lot of people, they can't leave their jobs, they can't go off to Australia, they've got families.
Alia, good to get your perspective this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us here.